welcome. Welcome to our final Queen Call of 2016. We are anxiously awaiting 2017 and getting ready to walk in on purpose. If we can have everyone to take a brief moment so that we can open up in prayer. In the most holy name of God, the beneficent, the most merciful, the master of this day of requital, Thee alone do we serve, and Thee alone do we beseech for your help. Oh God, please guide us into the right path, the path upon those whom you have bestowed your grace and your mercy, and not the path upon those whom wrath is brought down, and especially not of those who go astray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, we are absolutely excited about tonight. We have none other than the Queen herself, Queen ZaZa Ali. We are so overly pumped. We've been waiting on a part 2 since the phenomenal call a couple of months ago. And this time, we're getting ready to physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually walk into our year as we should. I know every year when there's a new year, typically people fall into the whole idea of the new year, new me mantra, and it becomes very, very trendy to talk about your evolution. But by January, February, many people fall off. We want to talk about real change. We want to talk about authentic change. We want to talk about things on tonight's call to stimulate us and to help us to grow and evolve into what we're supposed to be on purpose. We want to talk about intentional change and the real type of evolution that's consistent and that's real and authentic. So without further ado, we want to introduce tonight's guest speaker, our sister, our queen, our mother, our teacher, our friend, the social activist. She is a mother of one, a radio personality, and an author. Of course, she does numerous things throughout the community all over this world. And so, Sister Queen Sadia, if you can please introduce our guest speaker tonight, who we cannot wait to hear from.
Absolutely. Sister ZaZa, are you on the line?
Peace, Queen. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the world can hear you, sis. Now, it is as Wakiti said, it is an honor and it's a privilege to even know this sister, because we know that she is not a lightweight sister. She is a heavyweight. And when I say heavyweight, I mean in the spiritual sense, because if you've ever been around this sister, you've ever heard any of her words, the wisdom that she has, you know that, God has his hand on her, and that the words that she speaks, yes, the words that she speaks, it touches so many, but most importantly, it touches at the heart of the woman. I talked to her earlier today, and she said that she has been on a spiritual sabbatical, and that she's been in the lab just for us, because she has a word to bring forth. And we know that we are about to embark on 2017. And this year has been, we've had our lows and we've had our extreme highs. But what we're about to do is to walk into our next level of evolution, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even sexually. So I just, without further ado, this is a sister. And Sister ZaZa Ali, please, the floor is all yours.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Let me catch my breath. That was very humbling. That was very beautiful. You almost got me in tears. And it's emotional for me because over this past year, and as Sister Sadia said, first of all, let me stop. Let me greet all of the sisters that are on this call, that can hear the sound of my voice, with the greeting words of Assalamu Alaikum, peace, Hotep, whatever your religious background, spiritual background, we embrace you, we love you, and we need you, each and every one of you. I am so thankful to Sister Wakiti and Sister Sadia for having me, and not only because I'm here on the platform, but because of their intention, because of what they do in taking up the responsibility to edify our sisters. Sister Sadia, I didn't acknowledged this last time we did the call, and actually I don't even think it was going on at that time. But, you know, I talk a lot about repairing the relationships between us as women, and I talk about us intervening in each other's lives, and I talk about us being there for one another. This sister intervened in my affairs, and she came to me and didn't say, well, what do you think we should do, or I think you should do this. She said, no, this is what we're going to do. And she stood on her square, and she stood up for me. I didn't even have to reach out to her and ask her to do anything. She called flack for standing up for me publicly. And I just want to let you know, sis, that I appreciate you so much. Words can't even express how much I'm honored to call you my sister and to know that you are my friend, because I never even had to ask you to intervene. You intervened because you saw the need, because you saw what was happening to me, because you saw the disrespect, and you took it upon yourself to stand up for me like my sister. And I just want to thank you so much, sis, from the bottom of my heart. I really and truly respect you. I respect what you've done, what you've built, the creation of your family. You know, this is one of the things that I want to talk about tonight, is that the love that pours from the center of the heart of the woman is the foundation for the family. You can see the love from our grandmothers and from our mothers, touched in all of the uncles and all of the aunties and all of the nieces and all of the cousins and the friends who got blessed being in their presence. And you can also see the lack of love when our women are not on our square, when we are not on our posts, when we do not understand what it means to cultivate and to nurture a family. We've been taught directly and indirectly from the system of racism, white supremacy, from being in a world of patriarchy, from being in a world that smothers the power of the woman, that being emotional and having emotions is weakness. And I'm here to tell you, sisters, no. That is our power. Our intuition is our power. Our ability to love our men is our power. Our ability to love our children is our power. But the reason that we are so misconstrued in this whole thing is because we've been giving love to everyone and we haven't been loving ourselves. And I want to just stress this point, that we have to stop pretending like we don't need love. And I'm saying that because I was that woman my whole entire life, because I didn't grow up with my mother, because I didn't experience the connection and the love, righteous love from my father, because I had come across brothers and sisters in my lifetime who had neglected me in different ways and used their powers of persuasion to manipulate me and to send me off the right track. I didn't know what it felt like to really be loved until I had my son. We need to stop pretending like we don't need love. It is a requirement to flourish on this planet, to be loved by other human beings. And when we understand that, then we can take back the true essence of what it means to love. So I wanted to make sure that I said that to Sister Sadia. I want to make sure that I let Sister Wakiti know that I am so honored to know you, sis. And this sister is there in Houston doing the work with our children and making sure that we are giving birth not only through our physical wombs, that's only one of our wombs. We have another womb, which is our mental womb, and our mental womb gives birth to generations, should be giving birth to generations of seeds, men, women, and children alike. I was having a conversation at Cal State Long Beach a couple of months ago when I spoke there, and a sister was telling me that she was trying to guide a woman who was suffering because she wasn't able to physically have children. And I said, next time you see that sister, you tell her that she has two wombs. And if she's not able to produce children and to produce life through her physical womb, then she can produce children and produce life through her spiritual and her mental womb. This is how we have to get back grounded as sisters to start reproducing life and edifying our communities. So I want to start off by asking you, if you are listening to me right now, are you happy? I'm not talking about judging your happiness by the accomplishments of your children and your domestic life as a wife or as a mother, or what you've accomplished in your work at your job. I'm talking about you as a sovereign being, sitting where you are right now, doing whatever it is that you're doing. Are you happy? Are you free? And what is freedom? See, we talk a lot about, as a people, as we should, about freedom. I don't think we really even know what it is to be free. Are you free? Do we even know what freedom is? Do you feel loved? Do you feel protected? Do you feel secure? I've had to go back to the drawing board myself because of, a lot of things that I've been through in my personal life and even beyond this work that I do in the public eye, because I kind of put the cart before the horse. I put the nation before myself. I put the people before myself. I put my son before myself. And we as women, particularly black women, because we've been the backbone of the community, we have a tendency to do this. And then we look up and we don't know who we are anymore. I'm striving right now in everything that I do, with everything that I study, every word that I utter, to be a better person. And I think that if we go back into that mindset of trying to be better human beings, trying to be better sisters to one another, trying to be better friends to our men, trying to be better people, I think that it would take us a long way in what it is that we are trying to accomplish. So I think that in me trying to figure out my purpose with everything that I've been through over this past year, I had to remind myself that I had to be of service to myself. I had to go back into, some of the painful, traumatic things that I had been through in my childhood. I had to revisit not having a mother. I had to revisit my relationship with my father. And I think that it is very important for us as women, because we are nurturers, because we are compassionate by nature. If you find yourself with an ice-cold heart, or lacking the ability to love, lacking the ability to embrace a man in his fullness and help to cultivate him into manhood, then I think it's probably wise for all of us to go back and retrace our steps. Dr. Joy DeGruy, and this is one of the books I'm going to recommend. I can't remember if I gave this book on the last call. So if I gave this book and this quote on the previous call, please forgive me, but it is very important to the point that I want to make. Dr. Joy DeGruy, in her book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, she talks about human beings being exposed to stress and cortisol, and how cortisol plays an effect on our ability to manage and control our emotions. She says doctors have actually found the stress hormone cortisol, a chemical in our bodies that clouds our ability to be rational. For many people, the effects of this stress hormone begin before they are even born. Recent studies have revealed that pregnant women can pass on cortisol through the placenta to the infant, the impact of which can be devastating. After birth, the continual exposure to stress releases more cortisol into the bloodstream, preventing the neural connections necessary to access higher brain functioning. And this release of higher levels of cortisol could result in limited learning ability. We as women have to go back to being scientists again. You are sitting right now as a living and breathing entity. Your fingers, your arms, your eyes, your whole entire body is moving without you even having to give yourself demands. I want us to realize how powerful and how amazing we are just as we are, before we even pour anything into ourselves, before we even pick up the books, before we even get a job, before we even get married, before we even have children. Your physical being is an astonishment. God has blessed us tremendously, but we are living in hell, and we are buried in debt, and we are buried in fear, and we are buried in insecurity, and we are buried in lack of love. And you get so deep into the hole of all of these different things that it's hard to find your way out. Now, I know that there are different sisters, dealing with different things. I know you're on this call right now because you're yearning for something. You're looking for something. I'm on this call right now because I'm looking for something and because I'm yearning for something. You're on this call right now because you are yearning for something. My yearning started when I was 5. As long as I can remember, I've always felt a yearning and felt a longing and felt a suffering. Part of that was because I didn't have a motherly connection, and part of that was because I have an innate longing for truth and for God. What we have to do is figure out what's at the root of our yearning and what's at the root of our suffering, and what are we really truly searching for. What is your purpose? Beyond working a job, what is your purpose? What is that one thing that you bring to the table that nobody on this planet, out of the 8 billion people on this planet, that nobody else on this planet can do? What are you bringing to the table, Queen? I have several books that I'm going to recommend, and I'll reference these books throughout my talk here. Let me see how much. We're at 15 minutes. Okay, y'all know I can go, so I want to make sure that I time myself right. The first book is called The Astonishing Power of Emotions. Let Your Feelings Be Your Guide. There's a quote on page 42. This book is by Esther and Jerry Hicks. It says, "The law of attraction says, the essence of that which is like unto itself is drawn." And what that means is, if I feel unappreciated because of circumstances that have recently occurred in my experience, the law of attraction cannot now surround me with people who appreciate me. That would defy the law of attraction. If I feel fat and unhappy about the way my body looks and feels, I cannot discover the process or state of mind that is necessary to achieve a good-feeling, good-looking body. That would defy the law of attraction. If I feel discouraged about my financial situation, it cannot improve. Improvement in the face of discouragement would defy the law of attraction. If I am angry because people have been taking advantage of me, lying to me, dishonoring me, and even defacing my property, no action that I can take can stop those unpleasant things from happening. That would defy the law of attraction. The law of attraction simply and accurately reflects back to you in a myriad of ways an accurate response to your vibrational output. In short, whatever is happening to you is a perfect vibrational match to the current vibration of your being, and the emotions that are present within you indicate that vibrational state of being. What is it saying? We have a tendency, we're very hard on ourselves. We're very critical of ourselves, and this is my Achilles heel. I am extremely self-critical of myself, to the point where the negativity that we bombard on ourselves, and it can come from, different places. We all have different experiences that have shaped and molded us. But we get caught in a web of focusing on the things that we don't like about ourselves, focusing on the lack of financial security. And I know that this is one of the biggest issues that we as Black women have, lacking financial security. It's one of the biggest issues that we have. I know sisters right now, we have a Sister Cipher support group where we have a group of women who come together and basically just put money in the pot in order to support one another as women. It is very, unsettling to me how many of our sisters are financially struggling. So if you are in that place in your life where money is tight for you, and trust me, I know, in order for you to get out of that, your mind has to change. You have to take steps every day, even if they're baby steps, even if it's just creating a vision board, even if it's just going on your phone or on your computer and looking at websites and immersing yourself in different information that is moving you towards financial security. Even if it's just you sitting back and imagining yourself having that job, starting that class. That's the first step. If the mind can conceive it, then man can achieve it. But when we're sitting back and really immersed in fear and unsettled by what could happen, all of the circumstances that, we could meet if we don't pay the bills, that we could meet if we don't do what we're supposed to do, then it's creating a cycle of negativity that is going to play itself out in our lives. Fear is a very debilitating element. And a lot of us are suffering from fear. And I'm reading this book called The Art of Life. No, it's not. It's The War of Art, excuse me. I should have it here to quote it directly, but I don't. But he talks about how that thing that you fear the most is what you should be going after. That whatever it is in your life that you are most afraid of, whether it is, from lack of love, you're afraid of commitment, you are afraid of something dealing with your relationship with your children, you are afraid to take on a new job, to find a new job, you are afraid to start a business, you are afraid of, getting that gym membership because you don't think you're going to end up doing whatever it is, that thing that you fear the most is what you should be going after. So you have to ask yourself, what is your greatest fear? My greatest fear has always been that I was going to die alone. It's always been my biggest fear. I can remember as a child, it was something that I would think about, and I would think about it intensely. And so I had to get to the point, and I'm there now, where I'm not afraid of being alone. It doesn't bother me. I'm not moved and motivated by, like some women and some of my friends that have to have a man in their life, have to have a man in their bed. Do I want love? Absolutely. Do I want to be married? I absolutely will. Do I want more children? Of course. It's definitely going to happen. But I am solid and content within myself that I am not out in the world making mistakes because of my fears. See, when you fear being alone, and I've made mistakes based out of fear of being alone, choosing the wrong men, allowing the wrong man to choose you, and consistently keeping yourself in a state of chaos because you don't want to be alone. Something is better than nothing, right? That's how we end up as single mothers. That's how we end up in the club at 40 and 45 years old, pretending like we're 20 and 25 years old because we are still looking for something that we have not yet been able to fulfill. Sister Sadia and I talked about sex earlier. And, we could do I'm probably going to end up doing some workshops dealing with just this subject and putting up some videos on YouTube. But, being able to maintain and control yourself sexually, not just because we don't want men running in and out of our wombs. Yes, that's a very big part of it. And the fact that every time you take a man into your body, you are taking on his energy. You are taking on, if he has demonic aspects of himself that he has not fine-tuned, you are taking that on. You are taking on the energy of the women that he's been with. So, guarding yourself from all of that madness. It's not just a hit it and quit it type of situation. Don't disrespect God like that. Don't play with God and make it seem like you can lay down for 20 minutes and, do the business and then it's all said and done. No, that's cheap. We are talking about an act, whether we call it sex, whether we call it love making, mating between male and female. We are talking about an act of the highest proportions that creates life. So even if you don't conceive a child, you are laying down and giving a man your body and giving a man the essence of your spirit. When you go back and you look at the men, you look at the time frame of your life, from your late teens, some of us got sexually active in our early teens. Some of us started in our late teens. So you trace back your life from your late teens to your early 20s, to your mid-20s, to your late 20s, to your early 30s, to your mid-30s, to your late 30s, to your early 40s. Look back at the men who you were allowing into your womb at that time, and then compare and contrast your behavior, the emotional disposition, if you will. Were you a basket case at that time? Were you mentally sound? Were you insecure? It's not just about the, of course, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse, the different things that we go through, these brothers. That's all a part of it. But we're talking about the act of sex. We're talking about when you take a man into your womb and all of the energy and the life force that he is putting into you, and you carrying all of that negative energy inside of your womb. So retrace your steps and kind of gauge where you fall off, your patterns of behavior, your patterns of selections in men, your patterns of sexual behavior, how many men you had unprotected sex with, how many babies you could have had, how many abortions you could have had, how many sexually transmitted diseases you could have had. And this is not a indictment on you as a woman, on your spirit. No, this is science. This is mathematics. This is us laying it out on the table and starting to create a blueprint for the young girls that are behind us who we are neglecting right now, because we are neglecting our daughters. We are not on our post. I'm talking about collectively as women. So this is me as a woman and you as a woman going back and retracing the steps. Most of us came up in dysfunctional households, so it's not that far-fetched for us to have similar experiences. And a dysfunctional household is not only a single mother raising children. You have dysfunctional households where there is a mother and a father in the household. You have women who bring men in and out of the household. You have men who bring women in and out of the household. Children shouldn't be experiencing that and having to witness that when they're still trying to figure out who they are and still trying to cultivate, love in the immediate, intimate family. And we bring other people in and out of their lives that have no plan of staying, no plan of being a part of the relationship. We as women should be ashamed of ourselves. Allowing other people to come in and bring their energy and their negativity, allowing men to come in who have no intention of making a family and introducing them to our sons and to our daughters for them to leave and abandon them. And this is not just a thing that, this is not a gender-based thing, because women play with children's minds too. Women go into relationships with men and get jealous of their daughters. Play games with. My father had a girlfriend like that. She was jealous of me, and she played games with my mind because, she didn't like the relationship that the connection that my father and I had. So know and understand that anytime I pinpoint men, and pinpoint women, this is not about placing blame. I don't do that. Everything that I represent is about ma'at, and it's about us accepting accountability and responsibility for ourselves as women. I did a video recently, and I apologized to the brothers because I know and understand that a lot of the issues, not all of the issues, but a lot of the issues that our men have are because the bond was broken between them and their mothers. And if we as women are going to help them to heal themselves, we are going to have to take on a maternal role in their lives. That doesn't mean you're going to be his mother. That doesn't mean that you are going to be breastfeeding him, because some of y'all sisters are out here breastfeeding these brothers, and you're playing. And you need to let them stand up and be men. But it's about understanding that some of our men need additional nurturing and compassion, and caring. That also does not mean that you neglect your son or your daughters, but particularly your sons, because you are so busy mothering the man in your life that you forget to mother your son. So back to sex. when we actually, the science of the womb is a very fascinating study. The anatomy is a very fascinating study. There's another book that I want to recommend. It's called Awaken Healing Energy Through the Tao. This is partially dealing with the sexual aspect of spiritual enlightenment, if you will, but it's mostly dealing with energy and how to tap into energy using different organs inside of the body. It's written by Montauk Chia. Once I put this recording up on my YouTube video, I'll put a list up of all the books that I'm referencing here, and I'll give a list to the sisters so they can do so as well. But when a man releases ejaculates sperm into the womb of a woman, he can release somewhere between 250 million to 300 sperm. Out of those 300 million sperm, maybe 4 or 5 of them will make it through the fallopian tubes in order to get even close to the womb. Now, what is happening during that process of the initial ejaculation of the sperm and the sperm making its way up through the fallopian tube is that the woman's womb is weeding out sperm that may, be stunted in some type of way, may not be fully grown and developed, may have a retarded head, may have a not fully developed tail. The woman's body is weeding out the sperm that does not make the cut, which is why out of 300 million sperm, only 4 or 5 sperm actually make it through the fallopian tubes. Out of those 4 to 5 sperm that make it through those fallopian tubes, generally 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3, but for the most part, 1 of those sperm will be allotted to enter the womb in order to conceive life. Our bodies are scientific marvels. And if we really understood what is taking place when the sexual act is happening, even for men, can you imagine if a man is putting out 300 million sperm, what type of effect that is having on his body? What type of effect that is having on his neurological system and his physical prowess, if you will? Montauk Chia has 4 or 5 books dealing with this subject. There is one that is particular to women. I have it, but I couldn't find it. It's somewhere around here. And that is one that is specific to men. This Awaken Healing through Energy Through the Tao is for men and women. I implore all of you to study this science because there is, just like when you fast, I just did a 7-day fast. When you fast, you are detoxifying your body and strengthening your spiritual and your mental will. Well, if you fast from your sexual endeavors, and anyone who has, played any type of sports, that the day before the game, your coach will always tell you don't, even this is male, female, don't have sex the night before because they know that it weakens you physically. Not only does it weaken you physically, but it also has an effect on you mentally. So if our men are producing 300 sperm, can you imagine a brother who's having sex 7-8 times a week? I think, I can't remember which basketball player it was, maybe Wilt Chamberlain, one of the great basketball players, said that over the course of his lifetime he had 20,000. He had slept with 20,000 women. Sometimes he would have sex with 3 and 4 women in one day. Can you imagine how spiritually void you have to be to have women running in and out of your bed like that? So for us as women, because we are receivers and we receive that energy inside of us, it begs to be studied for us. And I'm just here to plant the seed. I'm just here to be a vessel to wake something up in you because we need to become scientists again. We need to become thinkers. We need to start thinking outside of the box. We need to start creating curriculum for our children. Your baby's going to school and learning sexual education at school. What are they teaching them? About masturbation, about the male-female anatomy, about how to properly relate sexually to, another young child or what's going to be expected as you grow up? Which one of you sisters on this phone is going to develop a curriculum, a sexual education curriculum for our middle school students so that when they come from the public schools and they've indoctrinated them the way that they want them to, we can go to your website and we can have our children log on to get a righteous perspective about the sexual orientation of men and women? Which one of you sisters is going to produce that? Which one of you sisters is going to start studying the science of puberty and what happens to a boy when he has a wet dream? And I'm saying all of this because my son is 13, so I'm in the thick of it right now. Trust me, I'm in the thick of it, and I'm depending on a very powerful sister who's in my life to help me see my way through it because this is new to me. So who's listening to me that's going to start developing curriculum so that we can start shaping and molding the minds of our children? Your children in your community, yes, but we have the technology at our hands right now. I'm looking at a website, reading an article from a brother in West Africa right now. You have the power, if you go deep inside of yourself and cultivate your mind in the right way, where you can be teaching our children all over the world. Yes, we need schools. Yes, we need institutions. But your mind is the most powerful institution there is. That's where it all starts. So at what point are we going to start thinking about some of the challenges that are facing us, the challenges that are facing our sons and our daughters, and start coming up with real, tangible solutions? I think I have a solution-oriented mind. We have to start thinking from a solution-oriented perspective. And it's not always as difficult as we think it is. The first thing you have to do is take the step, take ownership as the mothers of civilization. There's another book that I want to recommend. Some of you may have heard me quote this on my recent video that I did where I talked about polygamy and strong black women and something else. But there's a book called The Secret History of the Mongol Queens, How the Daughters of Genghis Khan Rescued His Empire. It's by Jack Weatherford. This is a very fascinating book. Now, I'm a history nerd. I know, everybody may not be into history, but I'm studying different periods of time and different, cultures of women from around the world because I'm looking at us. I'm looking at us right now here in America. I'm thinking about what the world is going to be speaking and talking about of black women 100 years from now. I'm trying to figure out if my son's children's children are going to be looking back and thinking that all black women did was twerking and, made a few moves in corporate fields, which nobody's going to be talking about that in the history books. What are they going to be saying about us? They may mention Michelle Obama and Oprah Winfrey and, Oprah's got all this money and ain't doing nothing for her people, so of course they're going to mention her. What will our children be saying about who we are right now as women? Who will they speak about? Who will they talk about? Who will be that source where they can look back and say, you know what? She's the one. I can give you 20 women off the top of my head where I look back and say she's the one. And you know what? Ain't none of them among us right now. They've all passed on. They've all transitioned. The latest being Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Actually, there's a couple of sisters that I have a lot of respect for. I'm going to take that back. But I'm talking about doing a work that's so monumental that your name will be written in the annals of history. So this book, The Secret History of the Mongol Queens, about the daughters of Genghis Khan, there's a quote on page 60. It says, where am I? Oh, you know what? I'm on the wrong page. No, I'm not. Genghis Khan dispatched his daughter Al-Atun to the Uyghurs with a clear message. He told her that as a Mongol queen, he gave her 3 husbands. Her nation was her first husband. Her second husband was her own reputation. In third place came the earthly man to whom she was married. Of the three, he wanted it clear that her priority was to her duty and to her nation. If you can take your nation as your husband and serve him very carefully, you will earn your reputation. If she maintained these priorities, her relations with her flesh and blood physical husband would find their place. He said, if you take your reputation as your husband and carefully protect it, he further explained, how can the husband who has married you ever forsake you? This quote was so powerful to me because, for one, this is one of the most powerful men in history who has, built a legacy that will be talked about for eons of time. But he understood and he saw the power of the women around him. And he gave his daughters authority over themselves. What if we as women put our nation, and when I say our nation, I'm talking about our people. I'm talking about our men and our children and our sisters and our elders and our grandmothers and our grandfathers and our babies. What if we took that nation as our first responsibility? What if we moved out with that energy? I'm not talking about doing what ZaZa Ali does or Sister Sadia or Sister Wakiti. I'm talking about in your mind and in your spirit knowing that your first responsibility is to your people. Just carrying yourself with that energy. And then behind that, developing your own reputation. What is your reputation? That's two questions. What is your reputation, meaning what does it mean to have a reputation? And then the second question is, what is your reputation right now? What are you known for in your community? What are you known for at your children's school? What are you known for amongst your friends? And if all you're known for is going to the club and being funny when you put a few drinks back and, you know what I mean, being the life of the party, that's cool. That's okay. That's not a reputation, though. Why do we not move with an agenda to develop a reputation? Why do we not handle ourselves in corporate worlds and in, whatever our areas of business is and how we move out throughout the world, thinking about our reputation and our reputation being important? And then he said, your third husband is the man that you marry. He said, and if you can take your reputation as your husband and carefully protect it, how can the husband who has married you ever forsake you? Because when you are operating from a perspective of righteousness, when you are taking control of your life and of your post, you are only going to attract the type of man that's going to respect that. There's no way that you could be operating from the mindset of a queen or a goddess and attract a nigga. Come on now. I've attracted niggas before. Trust me when I tell you. And I look back at that time in my life. I see where my error was. So if you are striving for righteousness and to be a queen and to be a goddess, how could you attract a nigga? Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about black men outnumbering black women, the statistics. Don't worry about that. Don't cheapen yourself to become a victim of those statistics. When you know who you are, you attract what you deserve. So being mindful of accepting our responsibility to our people. Being mindful of taking our respect back, earning respect. Dr. Frances Cress Wilson said we have to earn the respect of our men. We sitting back snapping our necks, and y'all know I'm not talking about all of us. I'm making a point, so don't think that I'm using a caricature to point out all of us, but I'm making a point. We sitting back pointing the finger and talking about what men don't do and what men haven't done. How much effort do we put into earning our men's respect back? Do we really understand as sisters? And I want to ask this question, and I want to be really, really honest. I want you to be really honest with yourself. Do we really understand that our men and our children don't respect us? I mean, that bothers me. It bothers my spirit. Because if we don't have them, we have nothing. We don't have the respect of anybody in the world. Asians, Latinos, white people. No, nobody in the world respects black women as a whole. That doesn't mean that, we don't have that nurturing element and people gravitate towards black women when we walk in the room and we have a certain essence and, light about us. Of course. But when we talk about on a grand scale, black women are the least respected people in the world. So how is it that we can be comfortable with ourselves when we know that, knowing that reality? And when are we going to stop playing and make a decision to earn the respect of our men and our children back? Because if we don't have them, we have nothing. So talking about, and I hope that people don't take it the wrong way in thinking that you're putting the man on the back burner, because what comes in front of the first two husbands are so important. They're important because this is what establishes a righteous relationship with your man. This is what men do. Not that they put the nation in front of their wives, which, to be honest, if we're looking at this science, we all should be. This should be the breakdown, the methodology for all of us. But brothers put their relationship before getting a woman. Y'all know I'm not lying. There's exceptions to every rule, but brothers, we get lost in our men. And you get lost. You're lost when you have a breakup and you're so devastated because you don't know who you are anymore. You don't know what you used to like to do. You don't remember where you used to go before him. You don't remember spending time with your friends. You've ostracized yourself from your family. You've totally isolated yourself because you lost yourself in him. So in developing a reputation for yourself, in developing your own foundation, you walk into a relationship secure within yourself so that two people, can you imagine two equally yoked people? And I wish y'all could see me because I got my fingers on my desk, moving things around like I really have an audience, but I'm making the point to myself. Just envision me sitting here. It looks like I'm playing a piano, but I'm moving my hands back and forth to represent the man and the woman, an equally yoked man coming to the table with an equally yoked woman, both on the same accord, with the same goals of spiritual and mental and physical and emotional enlightenment, coming together what type of life they would produce. He's on his dean with his diet. He don't eat no pork. He ain't drinking no soda. He ain't, eating no white sugar. She's making sure of that because she's cooking the food, making sure that the food is organic and healthy, cooking not out of boxes but going back to the planet. And so his sperm is healthy and her sperm is healthy and her womb is healthy, and they come together and they create life. Can you imagine what type of children we will be producing? But she's already come to the table putting her nation and putting her reputation first, and he's already come to the table secure within his manhood and secure within himself. Can you imagine what we would be producing? I'm at 47 minutes, so I want to give these books out real quick and make sure that I make these last few points that I want to make. The other book that I want to recommend is the autobiography of Assata Shakur. I think it is very important for us, something that I've realized with us as black women, and I, give out book recommendations and things all the time. A lot of us, our sisters, don't really know our history. We don't really understand the gravity of what we've been through in this country. We don't understand the struggle, the black power struggle, the civil rights struggle, Jim Crow era, the lynchings. Do we know that more than 10,000 black men were lynched and women and children were lynched in the early 1900s? I mean, that doesn't stir your soul up? That doesn't activate something in your genetic memory bank? To know that our men were being lynched and their penises were being removed and their ears were being cut off and taken as souvenirs, that should fire something up in you. You should never be able to lay down with the descendants of people who did that to our people. and this is not an indictment on anybody who may be in a relationship, interracial relationship. I'm just saying, if you knew this history, maybe it would have changed things around for you. And even if you are in one, you should still know the history because it's your duty and responsibility to pay homage to your ancestors. The autobiography of Assata Shakur. Study what they did to that sister. Study what was happening during those times. Black Women in Antiquity by Ivan Van Sertima. I have a lecture that I do called Black Women in Antiquity, where I take the most ancient concept of worship, which was the black woman. We're talking about ancient history, African matriarchal societies. The first concept of worship, which was the African matriarch, and of course you always saw the child there. It was never worshiping the woman per se. It was worshiping the mother, the ability to give life, to recreate the most grand production of God, which is giving birth. So I go from there to and just trace back the stages of history and bring us up to where we are now. I'm going to do that video and put it up on my YouTube page because I think it's important for us as women to see the women that came before us, see how powerful they were, and see the standards that they set, you know, from a royalty perspective, from a wisdom perspective, and just kind of help us to shape and mold ourselves in their image. Of course, with the power and the wisdom that we've developed as women and what we've been through on this sojourn. The Science of Breath by Yogi Ramacharaka. I think I mentioned this book on the last show that we did, but this is a very important book because if you can control your breath and understand the power of your breath, you can totally change the dynamic of your life. I used to have anxiety attacks back in 2007 when the real estate market bottomed in California because all my business just like literally in a 24-hour time span bottomed out. And this book and learning the science of breath helped me to control anxiety attacks. And you know, so I didn't have to go to a doctor and get help. I controlled it myself. So that, as well as there's a lot of physical benefit to controlling your breath, knowing that you're supposed to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, that your nose has follicles in it that is straining the air that goes up into your nostrils and weeding out impurities. And this is why when you blow your nose, this is all of the impurities and dirt that is caught up in your nose as you breathe in, and then you breathe out through your mouth. When you breathe in through your mouth, you are opening yourself up to all kinds of dirt particles and all of the toxins that are in the atmosphere. Planet Earth is a documentary that was done by the BBC. It's on YouTube. I actually am it's pretty expensive. It's like $100, but it's well worth it because I think it's like 8 DVDs. But it is a very fascinating expose of the planet, from the birds to the trees to the caves to the mountains to fresh water to all of the different oceanic, elements. I highly recommend that you watch this documentary. It's on YouTube. It's broken up in the different sections, but all of it's on YouTube. Take some time to get back in tune with nature. We have to take time to get back in tune with nature because when you are in the presence of nature, you are in the presence of God. So sun gazing was an ancient technique that our ancestors did in Kemet and around the world, where in the morning when the sun rises or in the evening when the sun sets, and y'all got to forgive me, I know I'm all over the place, but I want to give you as much as I can with these last few 8 minutes, I think. You put your feet in the earth, whether it's the dirt in your backyard or the grass or the sand or some sort of natural element of the planet, and you let the sunlight penetrate your eyes as the sun is rising and as the sun is setting. It cannot be when the sun is at its highest peak. You have to wait until the sunset is happening because the sun rays are too strong for you to be able to look directly at the sun. But as you are doing this, you are grounding your feet back into be in harmony with the vibrational heartbeat of the planet, and you are also letting the sunlight penetrate your eyes, which is refocusing and re-energizing, if you will, your pineal gland and cultivating your melanin. There's a whole science behind that, and Dr. Laila Africa talks about that in his book Melanin, as well as just look up sun gazing, and you can find a lot of information about it online. So planet Earth, get back in tune with nature, take walks every day. Get out and if you are just sitting in a cubicle all day and then you come home and you cook dinner and, it's like you are never really able to take time to breathe in fresh air and just look at all of the marvels around you. When you realize how beautiful and abundant the planet is, it's difficult to take it for granted. Ma'afa 21 is a documentary that was done in 2004, I believe it was, where it talked about the eugenics program, which started with Margaret Sanger, and I talk about this in my book, Black Matters, the Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs. But eugenics was a scientific endeavor that basically declared war on our people. And so Ma'afa 21 looks at the scientific war and how they specifically went after our women. We know that 370,000 black babies are being aborted every year. Where are we at on that as sisters? That's not an indictment against you if you've had an abortion. No, we in hell. You know what I mean? Who's going to judge you for the decisions you made when you were living in hell? But what are we doing for the generations that are coming up behind us? Ma'afa 21 is a very well put together documentary that you must watch if you haven't watched it. It's on YouTube as well. And then statistics and information is available on their website, ma'afa21.com. Mamiwata.com, MAMIWATA.com. I've been studying African spirituality for the past couple of weeks, and I'm hoping to introduce a priestess who is my spiritual teacher, and she is one of the most powerful sisters that I've ever known. But she introduced me to the concept of the Mamiwatas, and then, of course, I went and started researching it and looking at, Voodoo cultures in Haiti and Africa. There's a book called Mamiwata, Africa's Ancient Goddess Unveiled, Volume 1. I ordered the book. I haven't read it yet. I looked through the table of contents, and I'm so excited. It's a very big book, and it is a historical reference point, if you will, for ancient black women all throughout the world, and kind of bringing it into the fold about how we got so far off track as women and the war that is going on right now. And this is, a reality that I'm realizing, that the real war is not between black and white. The real war is between men and women. And that doesn't mean that we ain't fighting racism, white supremacy, because, yeah, we are. But I'm staring face. If you're looking at what's happening right now in our communities with our men on social media, if you're looking at the condition of the mindset of our women and our men and how we're fighting and battling, yeah, that is the big elephant in the room that is not being addressed. And it's not just a gender war. It's not just men versus women. It's the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and how it has been perverted and misconstrued to the point where women don't understand the power of being women, and now our sons are trying to be women and don't want to be men. We have to reintroduce the idea of manhood and womanhood to our people. We as women have to redevelop a strong sense of womanhood, what a real woman looks like. What does she act like? How does she think? How does she move in the world? What does she think? What is her long-term goals? I'm not talking about going and getting a 4-year college degree and having a PhD and, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about womanhood, the essence and power and prowess of you being a woman. I really want to hone in on that because, man, we get the short end of the stick, and I'm tired of that. I don't want to be a man. I don't want to compete with our men either. I want us to – I'm closing it out, sis. I want us to really, really focus on redefining womanhood for black women, because we know that we should be setting the standard for all of the women around the world. My website is www.zazaali.com. I am so thankful to be with you, all of you, tonight, and I hope that something that I've said whether it's my energy, whether it was my voice, or whether it was the information, the references that I gave, is going to help to edify you and to touch you wherever you are in your life right now. And I look forward to building with all of my sisters coming forward. 2017 is going to be a great year. There's going to be a lot of things, that we have to be prepared for, but as long as we get prepared, we'll be good.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, sister. I know it's so much, and I know we always say this after every call, but you got to come back because it's so much.
I will.
And we got to bring you back to Houston. I mean, like, seriously, and maybe do a weekend of this because you have so much wisdom that we desire and that we crave and that we yearn for.
Yeah, just to let the sisters know, we are, and Sister Sadia and I talked about doing this in Houston, but I am working with a couple of sisters where I want to start touring the country and putting on workshops specifically for our sisters and for our young people. So it's coming. Just look out for it.
Yes, ma'am. So, Sister Wakiti, are you there? Is there anything before we leave, before we close out? Okay, then what I'll do is our next Queen call will be January 26th at 7:30. And I wanted to mention also, mark this on your calendar, if you're in the Houston area, we have our first annual crowning, My Glory, My Beauty, My Strength. And this will take place February 11th at 3 p.m. at the Shape Community Center. And, again, this is crowning my glory, my beauty, my strength. And the intention of this gathering is to celebrate women of color who've made a choice to cover their heads based on consciousness of culture, historical pride, religious significance, or freedom of creativity. And the crowning provides women and girls of color everywhere to embrace their natural beauty and empower others to do the same. So that's February 11th here in Houston, Texas, at the Shrine of the Black Madonna Cultural Center from 3 to 6. And if there's nothing left, do you mind closing us out, Sister ZaZa?
Sure. Did Sister Wakiti come in and say something? I thought I heard her.
Sister Wakiti?
Oh, I was on. I've been on. I just want to say again, of course, thank you, and to thank all of the queens who have been with us faithfully since January 2016 when we started the Queen Calls. There are so many people who have been very loyal to what the mission of the Queen Calls are. And we know that this is our sacred time once a month that we gather the last Thursday of every month to talk about us. And as Queen ZaZa said, to put ourselves first and to learn and understand who we are so that we can evolve properly and intentionally. My major takeaway from this today as I go into the 2017 is that I need to build my reputation. Mm-hmm. I had to tweet it because it was so powerful, but build that reputation so strong, brick by brick, so that it becomes, I don't even really know. I'm at a loss for words because it's such a powerful point that we have to make sure that that's something that we work on. The character is something that we have to work on. Our minds and our spirits are something that we have to work on. We have a lot of work to do, but it's so important that that life work gets done, because if we are not working properly, then nothing works properly. So thank you so much for sharing. This was an absolutely phenomenal call. I could not think of a better way to end our 2016. And may God bless all of those who are with us this evening.
And also, let me say this, Sister ZaZa, all the books and all the documentaries you referenced, we have put the links for the books and for the documentary on our Queendom Come Twitter page, on our Facebook page. And so if there's any additional books that you did not get to, please forward it to us so that we make sure that we get it to our callers.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely will. And, I appreciate both of you sisters tremendously, your spirits, your minds, just everything about you. It really, really resonates with me, and I'm so thankful and honored to be here with you. And I just want to leave the sisters with this. In ancient Kemet, the semblance of Ma'at was represented by the woman. Ma'at represents balance, harmony, justice, and reciprocity. I am imploring all of us to start governing ourselves by those principles. being balanced in how we interact with our men, being balanced in how we interact with other sisters, creating environments in our homes and in our minds and in our spirits that produce harmony, giving justice to our communities, giving justice to our children. A lot of times we take out our problems and our issues on our children, and we are not able to mother them with justice because we have never received justice ourselves. And then reciprocity. Reciprocity is mutual giving and receiving. So when you expect what you expect of other people, you have to be prepared to bring to the table. If you want a man who has, 10 qualities that from being financially well off to spiritually elevated to funny to charismatic, then you have to strive to embody those qualities as well. So truth, balance, harmony, justice, and reciprocity, these are goals and ideals that we should strive to cultivate in ourselves in order to give justice to this planet, which I do believe is our responsibility. Thank you so much, Queens, for having me. I love both of you, and I appreciate you tremendously.
And we love you too, Sister ZaZa.
Love you too. Love you too.
So, Queens, we want you to go into 2017, go into the next level, because, they say there's levels to this thing. And so as queens, there's levels to this queendom. We got to elevate, and that's what our intention and purpose is for everyone on this call. So we love you again, Sister ZaZa, and we'll see you in 2017. Peace and blessings.
Make it happen. All right. Peace, Queen.